Recently, we witnessed the passing of a very prominent African president who was, uh, to an extent, he was practicing some form of Pan-Africanism. He was standing very steadfast against certain imperialists. And that person is President John Magufuli of Tanzania. Now, this leads one to question, how do we ensure continuity in the struggle if, if our leaders start dropping off through naturally or unnaturally? I'm not going to accuse anyone, but there's need for continuity in Pan-Africanism, in the struggle for black empowerment. What would you suggest should be the case going forward?
The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, leaders will die. It is within the essence of leadership that one may have to give his life, but we have to train our replacements so that there are no gaps in the liberation struggle. And that is where the mistake is. Very few of our leaders have trained a cadre, a group, a population of leaders who could take their place in the event of a premature death. Very few have. And in their defense, many have been too busy to do so. It's hard to be a leader, a president, and at the same time, groom one's replacement. But that's what we need to do. We're the only people in the world who praise for their leaders. Nobody else prays for their leaders. They groom them, they train them, they raise them. But African people, and this speaks to the religious control of our consciousness. We view everything through the realm of the Bible and the Quran, and it has had very dangerous political, economic ramifications. I'm not against the Bible or the Quran. I'm not against the Muslim or the Christian, but I am against interpreting all phenomena through the lens of religion. We have to stop praying for leaders, and we have to make them. We have to groom them. We have to train them, and we have to raise them. That is the mistake. If you look at the assassination of Lumumba, Congo hasn't had a replacement anything like a Lumumba. You look at the assassination of a Malcolm X. American Africans haven't had anything like a Malcolm X or a Dr. King. You look at the overthrow and the untimely death of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. We haven't seen a replacement like a Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Amilcar Cabral, Robert Sobukwe. We haven't seen anything close to them. Why?
Thomas Sankara, please.
Absolutely, Thomas Sankara. And that's why we are in the situation we're in, because there's no training of that. And that's one of the reasons I'm building a Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, because I understand, because people ask me all the time, when you leave, who do you have going to take your place? Well, that's the purpose of the FDMG Academy, to train an entire generation of Black males who think about nothing other than African liberation, an entire generation of Black males who will never look at another woman who's not African, who will never look at a white Jesus, who will never see Black skin as ugly or nappy hair as unattractive. We have to create a new African consciousness to survive in a new age. Same principles, same culture, same foundation, but it must be a new vision of a new future. Otherwise, we're going to lose, because if we do not take back the minds of our youth, we're done, because our future will be in the hands of the youth.
Some will accuse us of racism, and I'm talking specifically within the Black community. When you say what you just said, you will be accused of racism, you will be accused of being a radical. And I understand it's a mindset. I understand that people need to be elevated to understand why it's actually better for interracial relationships, for across race relationships, for us to actually start taking, start minding our business, really, you know. With that in mind, lately there's been, even amongst black women, there's been a push sort of for black men or women to get into the practice of polygamy as a way to as a social solution to the lack of mates for our black women. Is that something that we should fight for in North America? Because it's commonplace in Africa.
I think that for those of us who live in the European context, where there is a clear and open war against black males, which reduces the amount of available able-bodied black men for our women, you have to consider some form of polygyny, even if it is only for a specific amount of time. We have cities in America where the black woman outnumbers the black man 10 to 1, 15 to 1. I've even heard that there's ratios in certain cities in the United States, 25 women to every one black man. There is no way you're going to build strong, healthy black families. There's no way you're going to balance and save the community if you don't go to some form of polygyny. And what people need to understand, this is not being done out of lust. This is being done out of a need to save the nation. See, and this goes back to your previous comment as well on racism, polygyny. It all goes back to an essential question that every African has to ask themselves. And that is, are you a nationalist or are you an individualist? See, when I have conversations with people, I always ask them, are you a nationalist? Do you care about what's in the best interest of African people? Or are you an individualist? Meaning you only care about what is in your own best interest, and you believe that everybody has a right to choose what is in their own individual best interest. Because if you are an individualist, then guess what? There's nothing wrong with homosexuality. If you're an individualist, there's nothing wrong with interracial marriage. If you're an individualist, there's nothing wrong with any of that. But if you care about the future of African people, if you care about the future of Africa, if you are a nationalist, then you automatically understand that we may have to consider polygyny. If you're an individualist, it doesn't even matter to you. So a lot of this is rooted in one's worldview. Are you living for the people or are you living for yourself? Because if you're living for yourself, we don't even need to have a conversation, because nothing you say I'm going to agree with, because it's only about what's best for you. And nothing I say you're going to agree with, because it's only about what's best for the people. So if you're concerned about what's best for the people, you got to consider polygyny. If you're concerned about saving the black family, you have to be against interracial dating. You have to be against LGBTQ, because all of those things undermine the success and the sanctity and the survival of the black family and the black community. There's no two ways about it. I've had conversations with members of the LGBTQ. I love all black folks, whether you gay or straight. I love you, you my family, but I have a right to disagree with your lifestyle. And every time I've had a conversation with a member of the LGBTQ, I've asked them the same question. Can you give me one benefit? Give me one benefit to the open practice and promotion of same-sex marriage in the black community. Give me one benefit to African people. To this date, I haven't had a single homosexual or lesbian who has been able to give Dr. Umar a single benefit to same-sex relationship. I do the same thing for those who are engaged in interracial marriage, okay? Even though I don't support it, I still respect you, I still respect your wife, but I don't support these types of families. Can you give me a benefit? Is there a benefit to the black man marrying a white woman? Is there a benefit to the black woman marrying the white man, or the Mexican, or the Arab, or the East Indian, or the Chinese? Can you give me a benefit that will accrue to African people as a result of your interracial dating or your same-sex dating, or your same-sex marriage? Nobody has given me an answer, because there is no benefit. It only makes sense for the individual. It does not make sense for the nation.
Yeah, you have a point. Collectively might not, but they will argue that, you know, they're in love and they have their life to live.
And I can't argue that from an individualist perspective. In other words, they're saying, listen, I don't care about what's best for black people. I don't care about Africa. I don't care about the Black community. I just want to live my life. Then you are a selfish Negro, and that's okay. But there's no need for us to finish the conversation because I'm only interested in conversating with Black folks who want to save the race. If you don't want to save the race, why are we even engaging in the conversation? Because we have no common ground. You see, like when you talk about the racism, isn't it interesting that the greatest victims of racism are always being accused of it? The greatest, we do not have a history of systemically oppressing any other group. African people are the most humanitarian of the entire human family, which is why we suffer the most as well, because we do not know how to control the limits of our compassion for other groups. Compassion took Africa. Compassion led to slavery. Compassion led to colonialism. To this day, we have not learned how to control our compassion for the global human family. And because of that, the global human family have been able to exploit and use Africa and African people against herself. We have to get control of this uncontrolled humanitarianism that we have because it's killing us. It's why we are colorblind, okay? It's why we're dominated by religion. And it's why we cannot think politically and economically without considering other people's best interests except our own. We have not learned how to put Black people first. African people, after all we've been through, we still cannot put ourselves first. And one of the reasons we can't is because of our cultural humanitarianism, but also because of our religious indoctrination. One of the things I do not like about the way Islam and Christianity has been used, and I'm going to say has been used because there's nothing in the Bible that says African people can't put African people first. There's nothing in the Quran that says African people can't put African people first. But the culture of these religions through time have created a consciousness that says anything that is racially exclusive is wrong. Yeah. Which is ironic because the Chinese, he's Muslim, but he's racially exclusive. The European Jew, exclusive. The Mexican, exclusive. The Latino, exclusive. The Anglo-Saxon, exclusive. Everybody practices racial exclusivity except the African. We will not do it. Part of it is our self-hate. Part of it is our religious indoctrination, but a part of it is our cultural humanitarianism as well. But I wanted to say this. Racism is a group system of control and domination by all members of one group over all other members of another group. When there is racism, there's organization. How can African people be accused of racism when we're not even organized? Yeah. You got to be organized. That's number one. Number two, you have to control the resources. Although Africa has the resources, Africa doesn't control the resources. So for me to be a racist, I have to be able to control the resources that you need. What resources do Black people control that we can stop another group from getting? And you also have to be able to control opportunities. How can a people without opportunity keep someone else from getting their opportunity? It is a total misrepresentation of reality to accuse a Black person of being a racist. In order to be a racist, you got to be organized. In order to be a racist, you got to be able to control the resources, and you got to be able to control the opportunities, and you have to be able to enforce this system of discrimination, inequity, bias, and disproportionality against all members of the other group. In other words, if a white person makes me mad, I cannot fire them. I cannot discontinue their mortgage. I cannot remove their child from a university. I cannot terminate their insurance. I cannot get them arrested by the police. But if I make a white person mad, the police will come to their aid. I might lose my job. My child might lose their scholarship. You understand? Yeah. You see, because even if the individual white person doesn't have power, they belong to a group that wields power, and other members of the extended family can be used to exercise their power against any one of us. And that is why the poorest white person has more power than the richest Black person, because it's about the group. It is not about the individual. That's why an Oprah Winfrey, a Tyler Perry, a LeBron James, they are just as powerless as the rest of us, because power comes from the group. And if your group doesn't have power, no matter how much money you got, no matter how famous you are, it means nothing. Look at Bill Cosby. Look at Bill Cosby, the most influential Black television personality in American history, is sitting in a prison. Why? Because a couple of white women accused him. No proof that he did anything wrong. But because he was accused by these white women, the entire system of racism came to their aid and convicted this man of a crime that they can't even prove he committed. That is racism.
Now, talking about that, that's that leads to what's happening right now.